Hey guys, welcome to the Essential Show with your boy Stevie Hayes. And today I want to talk to you guys about the whole entire Maverick City situation. I think there are a lot of things that need to be talked about, and a lot of things that also need to be kind of addressed. And just from my overview point before I get into all of this, I do like some of Maverick City's music. I do listen to their songs, and they've been and the music that they have put out has impacted my life in a ginormous way. Um, I just want to say I don't hate Maverick City whatsoever, but I do think that this whole Dante Bowe situation, in my opinion, was handled very poorly. I think could have been handled a whole lot better, to be honest with a lot of you guys. And some of the way, at least to me, the way that some of this went down to me seems very problematic. So I just want to go through what happened, and then we'll get into three things that I think three reasons of why I believe this was handled very poorly. Okay, so first, let's read all of these statements. All right, so we got this first statement about 4 days ago. So it says right here, statement from Maverick City Music, and it says this: due to behavior that is inconsistent with our core values and beliefs, we have decided to put a pause on our professional relationship with Dante Bowe. Decisions like these are not easy because of the level of nuance, both professionally and personally, but we felt it necessary to address. Maverick City Music is a collective of various artists from many different backgrounds and life experiences. As such, no one artist's actions or behavior can always be attributed as a reflection of our core values and beliefs. Dante is a brother in Christ, and as such, he has our full commitment and unwavering support as he continues to navigate his path forward. Each of us need God's grace, and our hope is that we all pray and give him the same opportunity to grow in Christ as we give ourselves Maverick City Music. Okay, that's the first post that was made, right? Then after that, Dante Bowe makes a post very shortly after, and says this: in light of recent events and opinions, I've talked to some of the wisest leaders and brothers around me. I'll be taking time off social media to rest mentally and physically. Years ago, when I dreamt all I would accomplish one day, I didn't account for the pressure and opinions that will come with it. It is important for everyone to know when to step back, and refocus. Hope y'all understand and support. I'll hit you when I'm back. Okay, so those were the two statements that were 3 days ago, and obviously a bunch of fire, came through for the past week about what was going on. There are rumors about Dante posting nude and all this other stuff, and so then we get another statement from Maverick City and Dante Bowe, and these are what these statements said. So Maverick City posts another statement, and it says, we are in full support of Dante as he continues his journey towards health and happiness. Our ethos has always and will always be centered on family. We are all imperfect people who need a perfect savior. Dante is a part of our family, and he always will be. Maverick City Music. And then Dante, as I said, makes another post. Obviously, he's going to come right after. And he says this, okay? The platform of success I enjoy is a blessing that is both gifted to me and shared with you, my faith, community, family, friends, supporters, and fellow artists. I sincerely apologize for the impact of my behavior and that it has offended many people on the platform we share together. This experience has been a very real reminder of the importance of being incredibly intentional with how I utilize and engage with the tools. See, this is so much like rhetoric and like PR. It's just so many words. Okay, let me restart the sentence. All right. This experience has been a very real reminder of the importance of being incredibly intentional with how I utilize and engage with the tools social media platforms provide. Throughout the process, I have received wise counsel which influenced my decision to take a step back and reflect about my actions so that I may recommit to living in the purpose God has for my life. I want to say thank you to Maverick City Music for their continued support now and always. Throughout this process, they have remained by my side, and for that, I am truly grateful. With love, Dante. Okay, so if you guys don't know, this is very PR-y. Dante actually typed the first one, and I promise you the second one, he had a PR person type this. This is, like, it gives you all the Christian language and all the Christian cool stuff, So, I have three things just to talk about of just three opinions on this. Number one, this was handled poorly. Number two, no accountability was held until it went too far. And number three, worship co-groups can be a very toxic thing to the Christian that participates in it, okay? Now, I think this was handled poorly because Maverick City and Dante Bowe doubled back on their post. Like, from what it seems like they both got a little angry or made a quick decision and both called it quits without getting deep into it. But they put out these, like, open-ended posts, definitely Maverick City, which makes Dante seem like he did something wild when, no one wanted to talk about it at all. And so now there's a bunch of fire going on in the social media world, and everyone's going like insane and crazy. And I believe that that second post was released by the both of them because they actually sat down and talked it out and had a healthy conversation with Dante. And to me, I that puts Maverick City in the wrong. Because before you make a public post like that with very open-ended language, do you understand that this is like the echoes in the Christian community that this causes? Like, bro, like the internet in the Christian space was literally on fire all week long. You know what I mean? At least take your time to post when you have a final decision with the person that you're talking to. There's no way that you should have to double back on a post. But when you do open-ended stuff like they did, and that was very nasty in my opinion. I was not a big fan of the way, they went about that. Wasn't the biggest fan. But that's how it seemed. It seemed like they was arguing and it was so poorly. Now, the second thing, right now, there's been a lot of questionable things with Dante lately. And, he even kind of admits that, he's been just kind of like not in the best place, which is awesome that, he went on Instagram and got to actually tell us how he feels. But here is the question I have, and this is the question that a lot of people were asking me. Is it Maverick City's responsibility to hold him accountable, or is it the people of his community / church, right? That's been the big question. And in my opinion, it has to be both. Now, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but from my perspective, I mean, we all know he has been posting some stuff that just shouldn't be posted. And, one time, like, I get it, you don't know, we are young, we're going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. The Bible talks about that, right? But to make repeated mistakes, to do things where you're just tiptoeing around the line. It just seems like you're wanting controversy. Like to do something like that shows us that, number one, there was no accountability there for Dante, or number two, Dante just did not care and he did what he wanted, right? So it seems like a lot of people, whether if it was Maverick City or his local church or whoever it was, just kind of swept what he was going through under the rug and didn't address anything at all. And I say this because he says in his statement that he has people in his corner. He has wisdom. But where was the wisdom when you was out here acting like a fool, kind of sort of, when you were out here posting stuff with curse words or doing this or doing that? Where were these people? Did these people just come when you were just, when you were like at the breaking point, And like, and it hits me because if we go to the scriptures, right, in Galatians 6, they talk about what to do when a brother or sister is in sin, right? So Paul is kind of addressing what to do when someone's in sin and how to get to restoration. So Galatians 6 verses 1-5, it says, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And be careful not to fall in the same temptation yourself. Share each other's burdens, and in this way, obey the law of Christ. If you think you are too important to help someone, you are only fooling yourself. You are not that important. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone, for we are each responsible for our own conduct." Okay, now this is saying, that any believer that is devastated by sin needs to be approached and corrected by a fellow believer in gentleness and humility. And if someone in your community is struggling and you don't do anything about it, it's pride. Being humble is making not everything about yourself and your spiritual life and your growth, and actually holding your brother or sister accountable, and it just seems like through all of these courses of events, there was no one to check bro. Either that or bro was just being just, he didn't care. Which that could also like be a thing. It could be a possibility that Dante just didn't care. Which is maybe why they also cut ties. But it doesn't seem that way. So, and then I want to talk about worship codes and groups. Because this is a very slippery slope, and I'm gonna do a podcast episode about this. But I'm just gonna just go off on it a little bit. So, worship codes and groups that aren't a part of churches can be a very, very, very slippery slope, because I believe that this whole situation is happening because Dante and the whole entire Maverick City group, it seems like, or at least some of the people, they're not living according to a rhythm, I believe that God has set a rhythm for everyone's life, and it just seems like they're not living to that rhythm that God has set, and on the end of Maverick City, when you're asking someone for so much, as in like all these tours and stuff, how are you helping them grow spiritually? They have tour after tour. These people aren't home. You're going from church to church, so you don't have a community like that you fall into, and like in like a local church kind of vibe. And when money gets involved, you want to keep the brand, so you let things slide under the rug, And I feel like Maverick City maybe didn't really say nothing to Dante because they didn't want to affect the bag. Dante is one of the biggest pieces of Maverick City. And when following Jesus, doing the right thing will cost you dollars. Holding people accountable will lose you fans. For a worship code to work, there has to be a constant, strong accountability. There needs to be deep vetting. There needs to be clear-cut values that everyone knows. There also needs to be a limit that when it's reached, there's a consequence for that. And Maverick City has been on 1,000 for the past almost 2 years, and it's not okay. Even Jesus needed rest, bro. There needs to be space for a Sabbath, right? Like, there has to be space for a break. And there are so many tours, and people aren't at their churches for almost a whole year. And, why do you expect that Dante ends up in this place? Why do you think all the other people end up in this? Because they get caught up in the whole hype. And when you get caught up in the hype and you're touring for a whole year or whatever, dude, you burn out. And that's why I love, Chandler Moore, because, Chandler Moore's a part of his local church in Dallas. He goes to the Social Dallas at Robert Madu's church. And being plugged into a local church is very healthy for you. And you need to be able, and okay, I get it. You're going to be touring. You're not going to be there like every Sunday, but you got to make it, an importance to be a part and be plugged into a local church because it's healthy for you. And a lot of Christian artists get caught up in the grind and they diss their local church and their community and they travel and then they end up having no one to confide in because they feel that if they do, then they'll lose everything. That's the reality. These people are going through things and they can't even confide into people because they think they're going to lose everything. And there's a season for touring. I'm not saying that. There's a season for that. But there is a season to be home with your church community growing, The healthiest people I know that are a part of worship codes are plugged into their local church heavy. And maybe for Maverick City, for them, they need to calm down. They need to slow down a little bit, bro. We can go 6 months to a year without an album. There has to be room, for a break. Like, they have 7 tours a week. It feels like they go on so many tours, and I get it, it's to make money, but there has to be a level of rest. There has to be a level of Sabbath. There has to be a level of chill, Like, we are called to live like Jesus. We are called to be with Jesus. We are called to become like Jesus, and we are called to do what Jesus did. And to do that, there has to be a time for rest. And to be honest with you guys, I like to sum up this whole thing, I think Dante Bowe's biggest issue is just community. I think bro has no community. And I think bro just doesn't, I think bro got caught up in the fame. He got caught up in, the whole entire glamour. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact of not being home. Not being around people that humble you, not being around your local church and not being plugged in. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this whole situation. I think Maverick City comes off as a very unhealthy organization where I feel like they're not taking actual soul care of their singers and people, and the ones that are kind of being taken care of, they're taking care of themselves and they're plugged into their local church. But if you are an organization and you're putting this much demand on your people, you have to have some things in place set up so people where people are getting soul care, and community is being built, and you're not just letting your people do whatever they want, because now it's becoming a regular ban. So yeah, tell me what you guys think about that. But please like and subscribe and show some love, man. This is my opinion, so if you disagree, that's totally fine. You can comment, it's whatever. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Show some love. Peace out.